So this one looks like a long one to make up for the two short ones.
Yeah.
Hey, Doc, thanks for taking this question. I'm a 46-year-old guy who has always stayed in shape. I recently dieted hard and got down to probably 10% or below. I'm assuming he means body fat. You can see veins in my abs, and there's nowhere to really pinch any fat on my body. So he's doing his homework. I'm an ectomorph, meaning naturally skinny and thin and not fat typically, and have never been able to get the size I would love to get. Typical ectomorph, right? I train ridiculously hard and just get long, lean muscle with no roundness. Well, thank your choice of parents for that. I recently got a cycle from a buddy who competed for years. Mentioning that to say, I trust his gear. Anyway, another dude was supposed to get me post-cycle therapy, but now cannot. I'm running about 500 milligrams of testcypionate a week and have a couple of weeks left before I come off. I was going to do post-cycle therapy, then in a few months do decadurabolin, or testosterone or Anavar and testosterone, post-cycle therapy again, and be done. I'm worried now that at my age I may never get back to normal from not using any post-cycle therapy. Am I paranoid considering it's just 8 weeks of testosterone cypionate at 500 milligrams? Guys used to taper up and taper down when these drugs were less accepted and post-cycle therapy wasn't as discussed. Could I taper down and get my body to produce again? Or with one cycle at 46 years old, I guess, will my test production even shut down? Should I be concerned? Breath. So while this amount of testosterone is well above what most would need for testosterone replacement, the issue when it comes to suppression of your endogenous production comes down to not the dose nearly as much as the chronicity of use. So how long you're on it is way more important when it comes to suppression over the long haul than the dose. When we're talking about strictly talking about your own endogenous production. Your age has a big factor to play in all this too, a big role to play. At 60, if I were to do something that shut down my own production, TRT, and then came off after a year, it would be very different the time it took for my testicles to reestablish their natural production than it would be if I did this at age 35 for a year and then stopped, okay? So those two factors are most important. So in trying to answer the question here, the dose, 500 milligrams a week, or whatever, of testcypionate, that's not so much an issue.
And 8 weeks is pretty short.
Yeah, relatively speaking, 8 weeks is a drop in the bucket. Now, will his testosterone endogenous production stop? No. First of all, I've never seen it stop, okay? It's not linear in effect. It's more of an S curve. So, it'll drop down pretty low, your own production, but it won't ever zero out, at least as far as I've seen. And 8 weeks of that, yeah, he's probably, at 46, again, probably going to be suppressed more than if you were 26 years old. But in terms of what people are referring to as post-cycle therapy, any agent that would be used to try and promote endogenous production of testosterone, whether it's HCG or enclomiphene or clomiphene itself, you don't need post-cycle therapy. I don't know how that got started as though it were a need. You want probably the fastest way to get your testicles back online, or ovaries in the case of a female, stop cold turkey. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be pleasant. You might be fairly uncomfortable, but at some point, your body's going to go, hey, where's the testosterone? And start screaming, the pituitary is, at your testicles or ovaries to start producing testosterone again. Your body has its own post-cycle therapy, if you will, okay? What eases the transition, and I know we've talked about this before because we talked about, the testicles being like diesel engines. They're harder to get up and running again, so they'll get screamed at for a while before they actually, clear their eyes, wake up and say, okay, we're going to start working again here. So if you can prepare them, you can start them early before you come off of testosterone or in this case, if he's also using nandrolone or oxandrolone, you'll ease that transition because they'll be more responsive once you shut everything down.
Right.
And you can still taper with that program too. So I think that asked the question: should you be concerned? Will it? I've never seen testosterone production completely shut down, as I've said, and I've never, knock on wood, seen a case where if someone needed to or wanted to come off of testosterone replacement therapy, that their testicles or ovaries wouldn't start back up again.
Yeah, good news. Okay.
All right, next question starts with good evening. How'd they know it was evening? Thank you for posting educational videos. I am a little worried. I've started a cycle of testosterone cypionate, 200 milligrams per milliliter. Whoa. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Okay, so 200 milligrams per milliliter, 4 milliliters per week. Okay.
Ooh.
Oxandrolone, 50 milligrams a day. Yeah, definitely not TRT.
That's 1,000. Okay.
Done this for 2 weeks. I started taking anastrozole 0.5 milligrams after my third test shot on Monday, February 27th. I have puffy nipples now on Thursday. I'll stop right there and say, no surprise there. And I don't mean that to be a jerk or mean or anything, but boy, like you aptly noted, I mean, that's a lot of testosterone, 1 gram a week. And with 0.5 milligrams of anastrozole after 3 doses, so 750 milligrams, you're going to be producing way too much estrogen. I don't care who you are, really. I mean, the odds of you being that 1 in 10 million who can get away with no
side effects,
estrogen modulation, that's not even going to be applicable. So anyway, is it better to hop off and start taking Clomid? Kind of freaking out. A response would be awesome. Thanks. So, I mean, I think we got to the gist of it real quick, and this will be a short one. Hopping off, I mean, I don't know how old you are, why you're on TRT.
We'll give you that cycle.
On TRT, or if it's just calling it a testosterone cycle or whatever. But that dose is a very high dose, is the point, right? So, as I was describing in an earlier question, when your body has a level of testosterone or any hormone that's that high above what it's used to, where it wants you to be, that what we call homeostatic range, the farther you get away from that range, the more it's going to struggle to bring that back into range by converting it into something which the body's not concerned with. It's just trying to bring this down. But you're concerned with, particularly if it's excess estrogen, which is causing the water retention, which is causing the puffy nipples, most likely. And oftentimes sensitivity or even pain in the nipples, because your body's starting to make breast tissue or enlarge the tissue that's there. So is it better to hop off? I would consider reducing the dose. I don't know why he's using that high a dose, but also taking Clomid would have 2 effects. One, you're going to certainly benefit from its effect as a SERM, a selective estrogen receptor modulator, to block the receptors from that excess estrogen and reduce the puffiness and any potential for gynecomastia, this breast tissue development. Also, if he were to stop or hop off, as he says, then the use of the Clomid would also help his endogenous production restart, although he says he's been doing this for 2 weeks, so his own production hasn't probably been affected.
I'm sure he doesn't want to stop, but he's probably just concerned. So he's
and for good reason, because the problem with the gynecomastia is typically once you feel something there, and I think I've said this before too, because I've been involved in mini removal. You palpate the patient's nipple and you go, it feels like about the size of a regular small size marble. You get in there and it looks more like a golf ball. Okay. So once it gets to the point where you can feel it, it's usually too late to try and reverse the growth, which I can't prove, but I think is more of a myth. You reduce the ability to feel it, to palpate it, to notice it's there, but it's still there. It's just not as sensitive. So if it's not large enough, you go, I don't have it anymore. But even if it weren't the case, that it could actually be reduced. Once you get to the point where you palpate it, it's there.
You got to cut it out.
And you're probably going to, well, you don't necessarily have to cut it out. That's a matter of,
if it
personal
bothers you,
preference with, yeah, exactly. Cosmetics, or if it's too painful or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, Clomid is one way to block it. And I would actually suggest a SERM before an AI in this case, because it's going to work that much more quickly to use something like Clomid or tamoxifen right away to prevent this from getting worse.
Yeah.
Then you could switch to or add to the program an AI and convert all the way, although I remember the study that showed if you use an AI with a SERM, you're going to reduce the AI's effectiveness by about 13%. Okay, whatever. So you do your math to figure out what the dosing is. But my point is, to use a SERM would be ideal to block this right away.
Yeah.
And they also have these SERMs, tamoxifen in a topical, so you could actually apply it as well as take it. But I would definitely jump on the SERM, if not both jump on the SERM and hop off certainly that dose of tea.
Or reduce, yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks, Doc.